Hello, I'm the Smoking Cheddar, but I'm guessing you probably already knew that. So, please ignore the fact my base has been destroyed. I'm sure that will become apparent as to the reason why at the end of the video, maybe. Today we're going to be exploring the method I use for determining which officers go where. So this is the most common question I'm asked. What officers do I use for this tank, for this helicopter, or for this artillery unit? Now, I can't really answer those questions for you. There's a number of factors at play and they're all very detailed, and we're going to cover those quickly. Those factors are: what do you want to do with that unit? What officers do you have available? What do you plan on doing in the future? What tech do you have available currently? All of these combined together will guide you in the direction that you need to be. Now, the biggest one of which is how I intend on using the unit, or how you intend on using the unit. So it's very common for people to say to me, hey, what's the best combination for this tank? Well, there's a number of different best combinations for different MBTs. It depends. Which MBT do you have and what are you using it for? For example, are you using it to soak up damage in a field group? Are you using it to deal damage from inside a base? Are you using it to deal damage to an enemy base? Are you using it to deal damage to other tanks? These are all very different things, and will use different officers, and will utilize the tech in the tech tree differently, and will use different MBTs when we're starting to min-max that outcome. And we should also take skins into consideration, as because they also provide us a health and firepower bonus in regards to min-maxing. So I've been working on this video now since about the middle of November. It is currently the 23rd of December, and I was unable to get a good video out on this subject. The reason being is that I needed to have a unit that I could display to you. Well, we've gone from Silver 1 up to Gold 2. That's a completely different story. But this meant that I had to readjust my army setup. And as a result, I now have a 7.1 medium tank. This is relevant to the video, and just bear with me. So I had to ask myself, what am I going to use this medium tank for? It's going to be no good at fighting enemy bases, it's going to be no good at defending my base, but it's got to be good at something. So I need it to survive for an extended period of time without me having to send out reinforcements to it in the safe zone. It is currently donated to the safe zone bunker farming team, and it's been there for the last 3 or 4 days. As you can see, it's sitting right here, right in the middle of this group that's being controlled by the player that's on the screen here, who's currently offline. Now, I had a very specific requirement for this. It needed to survive, it needed to deal damage. I didn't want to interact with it in any way, shape or form. But more importantly, I had to do this with a unit I already had access to. Now, in terms of, I could have reverse engineered a better tank, perhaps a Martyr tank. I could have done, yes, and it was an option. I elected not to for this L4, as I already had a 7.1 Liberty tank available to me. Now, I don't have any tank tech, so I can't min-max survivability. I can help it along the way with the officers. So what I need to do is I need to identify what this tank is going to be doing inside this group. Obviously it's going to be attacking bunkers. These units are going to change on a regular basis, so I need to compensate for that. So I have elected to go for Steel and Havoc as a combo. This will give me a 2000 coefficiency shield, and it'll give me a high amount of damage intensity. But where we've really stepped the game up is under the trained skills. So if we just open the officers tab, We've gone for veteran operator here. It is only 0.5% field recovery when we're out of combat, but that might be enough just for me to never have to put a single reinforcement into this squad, even if I end up being the main soak unit. And so far so good. I haven't actually had to put anything into this unit. I've just donated it to the safe zone bunker farming group and it's doing its job. I am not interacting with this unit in the slightest. So I identified the need, I identified a unit I already had access to, and officers I already had to compensate for the lack of technology. But let's say you've got the technology but you don't have the officers. Is there a better alternative? Well, it depends very heavily on what you're going to do. So I've thought about this quite heavily over the last 3 to 4 weeks, and I would like to give you an example. This is not a suggestion that you should do this, this is merely an example. So let's say for example you have access to infantry technology and you have access to all different types of 7.2/modern infantry, or 7.1 depending where you are on your journey in this long-winded game. So you can have either Martyr, Liberty or Vanguard infantry. You've got the technology. You've identified that you would like to donate to an army group for field combat, but your tech is mostly in infantry. Everyone's like, hey, we should have MBTs, but it doesn't really make sense for you because all of your technology is in infantry. You can do more damage in infantry as a result. What officers should we look at? Well, what's the AG going to be doing? Is it going to be fighting other AGs? That's a high probability, which means splash damage. So we can just have a look at some officers quickly that provide splash damage. And this one in particular is very easy to awaken. You get her through doing your officer missions. You get the statues for her doing the officer missions. You will awaken her very easily. If you have spare statues and you're looking to do this as an example, I'm just using this as an example, you could accelerate this officer to be unlocked sooner. Now, when she's awakened, your tactical skill is an anti-armor grenade. This is very handy in field fighting because you're mostly up against armor. You're not often up against infantry, although I will say in my L4 there is an infantry blob that is causing absolute havoc. Now we get a 1200 damage coefficient with an AoE of 360 to a random enemy troop within 2 map grids of the target. If this officer is in an infantry troop, the damage coefficient of the primary skill is increased by 25%. So we're going to have a decent amount of damage output from this officer. And we're going to be able to hit an adjacent target, which is very, very important.
Sometimes it takes more courage to live than die.
Another officer that is also going to be quite useful here is Lonesome Star. Deals damage to an enemy coefficient of up to 1500 and has an AoE that can attack enemy troops within 2 map grids of the target, up to 3 enemy troops. We have a 50% chance for AoE damage here of up to 750 coefficient, but also with this officer we are gaining a passive shield that will randomly appear from time to time, and we're also getting skill resilience, and we're getting a non-fortification allies protected by this infantry troop will receive a damage intensity bonus of 2%. This is very good if you're thinking of joining an army group, because this officer now has a very good set of skills which will allow you to boost the tanks and helicopters within the army group and other infantry. And remember, our main focus here is to think of splash damage. I know there's going to be people in the comments section saying, what about the stupid bear with the artillery shell? We're not talking about him today. We never talk about him. I will die on that hill. He is rubbish. Yes, the infantry AG that is causing havoc is almost entirely comprised of him, but we are looking to accomplish a specific task here. And this is my point. We are looking at the task we want to accomplish.
Another mission? Let's tool up and
Now,
roll
if you were lucky enough to log in and get Warrior Wiz, there's a high probability that you have Bomb Princess, and she's very slept on when it comes to infantry. Now, her tactical skill, when it's awakened, is exceptionally good for infantry in the field. Throws a grenade dealing damage coefficient of 1300 to the target, and AoE damage coefficient of 130 up to 2 random enemies within 1 map grid. This tactical skill also inflicts burning on the enemy troops, dealing AoE damage for 4 seconds of 100 coefficient. This is a very good skill. Burning damage is underutilized, I've said this before, and when it is getting used by infantry units, it is extremely powerful. There are people out there who have videos on it, and they are very good. I do recommend you go and look up burning skill damage, especially in terms of AoE or splash damage, as I call it. AoE stands for area of effect if you are not in the ways of MMORPGs. Just to clarify, probably a bit late in the video, but if you've made it this far, you're probably still interested. So we identified the need, we wanted to add to an army group, and we wanted to deal splash damage. We wanted to damage as many enemy units within our attack range as possible to give our army group the best chance possible. Now, of course, we can increase the normal attack damage through the stupid bear wearing the baseball cap. And yes, that's going to deal a lot of damage to an individual target. I'm not going to deny that. This is what I'm trying to explain to you, is that if you want a defensive artillery unit or you want an offensive tank, you need to think about what it is you want to achieve and how can you achieve that. Now, in terms of infantry, let's have a look at the tech tree, because as I said, in this scenario you're probably going to have access to the tech tree. It's quite handy because I actually do. So what we're actually interested in here is these three right here, because these are camp specific bonuses. Conscripts for the Martyr give 5% damage reduction from normal attacks only, and increases the protection damage resistance by 1%, bringing the bunker's area of effect damage resistance from 4 to 5%. Now, if you weren't aware, when a bunker is deployed, it has an area of effect that I think up to 2 map grids. Everything within 2 map grids that is friendly gains a 4% damage resistance bonus. Under Martyr, that increases to 5. Under Vanguard, when you are deployed in a bunker, you gain a 3% firepower boost to all infantry units under that protection umbrella, but you're also gaining a 5% critical strike chance. And last but not least, the Liberty Infantry. It gives you a smoke bomb, reduces the cooldown for the use from 2 to 1.5 seconds, and increases the duration from I think like half a second to 0.75 of a second, going up by a quarter. I believe that's the case anyway. But you don't know what smoke bombs is, I hear you say. Well, that's okay, we can answer that for you immediately. Camp Liberty Infantry can toss a smoke bomb, resetting the enemy's load time temporarily, preventing them from attacking. That, my friends, is very, very spicy. because it means we can effectively stop an enemy tank from shooting us. Okay, it's not the best, but it will work. Especially in a one-on-one situation. Now, in a one-on-one situation, that's not probably going to be the best, but we're thinking about, hey, I want my infantry in an army group, not in a one-on-one scenario. This is probably your best bet. You're going to be able to splash damage all the targets in front of you and give them burning damage if you're using Bomb Princess. You're also then going to be able to use your bunker to not only increase the damage resistance of your allies within the army group, but the firepower also. And with the rate of fire that infantry have, critical strike rating, even at 5%, is absolutely ridiculous. Now, if you've never seen the infantry rate of fire for whatever reason, I will demonstrate it to you now. That's the rate of fire. That number popping up there over and over and over again, that is the ongoing continuous rate of fire. Now at 5%, that's pretty decent, but if you were looking to increase that, you could train in critical strike. Of course, we're then looking at moving away from potential splash damage and maybe more on single target damage. So what if we did want to use single target damage? Well, we've got a lot of options also available to us. Of course, we have Golden Eagle, who will be able to scale his coefficiency damage with the enemy armor. He also has a critical strike rating, and when he is awakened, he's also going to be ignoring the enemy's damage resistance. He's also going to increase the unit's damage resistance, and he's also going to increase the unit's damage intensity. He's a very good option for your infantry if you're thinking about vanguard damage. Who else do we have? Warrior Wiz. He effectively gets a free smoke bomb. It's called Master Hacker. When this officer's troop attacks an enemy ground force troop, it has a 15% chance of resetting the load time, preventing them from attacking for 1 second, and can be triggered every 8 seconds. This is a good skill. We're attacking over and over and over again, repeatedly with that machine gun, and as a result, we're going to have a very tasty rate of fire. We also get a critical strike rating. We also get a damage intensity buff, which increases with distance, which is not particularly good for the infantry, but it isn't exactly going to hurt. And we also get a damage resistance coefficiency strike, which means we're going to lower the damage resistance even further. So we could pair him with Golden Eagle, for example, and stack the damage resistance debuffs and stack the critical strike. We could also potentially use Lady of Justice. Lady of Justice will give us on Awaken, I should say, she'll give us a 1500 damage coefficiency strike, which will increase the which will reduce the enemy speed by 50% for 6 seconds, so they ain't getting away. It's also going to increase the damage intensity and the unit speed by 15% for the same length of time. So we're also getting a lot of firepower from her, and we're getting critical strike from her. So we're not thinking about splash damage in this instance, we're thinking about single target damage, which might be handy out in the field, especially if there's multiple infantry units. Maybe you yourself are running multiple infantry units. This is something that's slowly becoming more viable as people are switching on to the tactic. This is something I've been working on for a few months, and it's something that I'm now seeing that I'm in gold. And I think this is a very useful strategy indeed. So just to reiterate on what it is I'm trying to do here, I'm not trying to tell you, hey, if you're using your infantry, you should be using it this way. If you're using your tank, you should be using it that way. This video is designed to provide you with the skills that you will need to identify what it is you're doing. You need to be honest with yourself in how you are playing. Well, if your unit isn't really spending much time out of the base, there's not much point in giving it damage to siege or damage to, you know, splash damage in the field. Maybe you want splash damage for the defensive purposes. Maybe there's no point, for example, if you're inside your base 24/7 on having a +1 map grid. It's superseded by the fact that your base gets a +3 once you get your anti-aircraft system up to its max level. So think about how you are using that unit. Think very, very specifically about how you are using that unit. Once you've done that, that's when you can be, hey, what tech do I have with this? Okay, have I got any awakened officers that I can use that will fit both of these parameters? If not, don't worry about it. Put level 1 officers in. Skill level 1 officers in. Get them up to level 60 in EXP, and then just put in the skill level 1 officers. Train in the skills you want to reflect what it is you want to do. I'll show you my infantry quickly again.
Leave it to me.
So we've got a bunker damage resistance coefficient here. We have a damage intensity and damage resistance. Again, we're looking at damage resistance because this is a soaking unit. I'm using it to engage bases and it's doing it very well.
Where does it hurt?
We have a firepower and HP buff to increase that damage resistancy a bit further. We're going to be able to absorb more damage. We have a blast mitigation buff, which reduces the blast damage done by rocket launchers and artillery units. So we're gearing the infantry towards being able to take more damage. There's no sense in me using my Martyr infantry to deal damage if I'm trying to engage an enemy base. It doesn't make sense. And the amount of people I see with Uncle, for example, on a super heavy. Now, Uncle's a good officer, and if you're using the super heavy in a defensive role, that's fine. But when I see people being very aggressive in their play, that officer doesn't actually represent aggression. That officer represents defense. It says so in the top right hand corner.
War is a business.
So if you're playing very aggressively, he's not a very good officer. I'm sorry, he's not. He's good in terms of he has a good shield, he has good skills, but all of his skills are geared towards defending your base. Especially once he's awakened. It doesn't mean you shouldn't use him out in the field. You should. I mean, you have him awakened, or maybe you've got him equipped. But if you're playing more aggressively than you are defensively, you've put him on a super heavy, it's the incorrect choice for how you're playing. You would be better off with Svalin, who would have an objectively, I think, lower shield by like 75 points or 25 points. I know it's very small, the amount that's in it. But the skill you'll be receiving in exchange on Awakened, instead of healing your base, is going to increase the damage resistance by 80% for your super heavy. So you've got to think about what it is you want that unit to do and how you want to achieve that. These are key components in what it is you want to do. Now, I can't obviously help every single person that comes across my path. They're like, hey, I want to have the best tank. Okay, the best tank at what? The best tank at dealing damage to bases, the best tank at dealing damage from inside your base, the best tank that can be run-of-the-mill. What is... Do you want it to soak damage? Do you want it to deal damage? Maybe you want it to do a bit of both. Maybe you want it to be the most middle-of-the-road tank you can find. Well, then you probably do want Uncle. He's a safe choice. You can stick Uncle and Havoc on the unit, and you've got one defensive, one offensive officer. And then maybe you just want to go with a Liberty tank. The most middle-of-the-road choice. That way you can do a little bit of both. It won't be the best defensive tank, it won't be the best offensive tank, but it will be good at both of those things. So look very hard at how you are playing with your base. Look very hard at how you're playing with the individual units. Look at what you would like to achieve with these units. Then look at the officers and look and see if you can achieve those things with the officers that you currently have unlocked. Not awakened, not at level 60, just unlocked. And then start planning from there. The icing on the cake is indeed the tech, because it will allow you to min-max those skills in and unit bonuses to completely accomplish the task you are setting your tank. For example, if you're only playing with a tank in a defensive role, purely defensive role, you're probably better off using the Martyr over the SH, because you're going to deal more damage. You can transfer the shield using Countess. You can use him. He's still going to reduce the incoming skill damage by 40% and heal your base. Or you can use him and Havoc, and you're going to be able to deal damage out of the base as well. And you're using a higher HP unit. This means when you come to donate the unit to an army group, you're going to have to look after it less. The Martyr tank will heal itself over time. It has a higher amount of HP, and you don't really have to be overly concerned with it. It moves a little bit slower than the Liberty tank, sure, but that's more of a defensive play. Or perhaps you want him and Countess for the full defensive protection on your base. Well, you could go with the SH in that instance, and that would give you a small base-to-base capability. But realistically, without Svalin and without the new guy Iron.
Like you have nothing to lose.
Without the new guy Iron alongside Svalin, you're going to struggle indeed very heavily in that base-to-base capability, even with an SH, because you do need these two paired up on that SH. And then you've got to look at yourself, you'll be like, hey, well, now I've changed the capability of the SH. It's no longer, providing a shield and damage reduction for the base. I'm now using it to attack enemy bases. Well, then you're probably going to have to change your artillery as well, because you're going to want more siege damage versus an enemy base. And that's completely different from the defensive damage that you would otherwise be doing via splash damage or other types of damage. In terms of defensive artillery, the Argent Fist combo is the perfect example for defensive artillery, as is the Ventura and I combo or I Ventura combo for your offensive siege damage. You can look at the skills. These skills will accurately reflect the jobs you're trying to perform. So, you have to ask yourself, which one do you want? Which one am I going to invest time in? Now, if you're spending a lot of time on the game, it could take anywhere between 4.5 to 8 weeks to awaken an officer once you're at level 32 and you're regularly going into Conquest or L4s. So, it's a good idea to think very, very, very hard about what it is you want to accomplish. Remember your tech. Remember you've got every Thursday to awaken new units, and you can develop your capabilities from there. Anyway, this has been going on long enough. I've been the Smoking Cheddar. You've been very patient indeed. I have no idea if this made any sense whatsoever, and I guess if I manage to get this out tonight, have a nice Christmas. Have a nice New Year. If I don't get it out, sort of whatever. Eat food, drink your drink. Make sure you have a cup of tea every now and again.
Sing along. Trust me, there's nothing wrong. I just need to carry on, cause society's a myth put there to make you sit.
Some combinations just simply don't work. I know this is the case. I've done it myself many times. Oh my god, this L4 is doing my head in. You just saw that pop up on the screen. It says building being halted. Jesus Christ, every fucking 5 minutes. I've been the smoking cheddar, you've been very patient, and this is now going to degenerate into 3 hours of me screaming at the fucking screen.